Good morning, Matt. How are you down there in Melbourne?
Hi, Kate. I'm very well, thank you. It's rainy and drizzly and overcast, but that's kind of nice.
And as a Sydney sider, I have to say, why am I not surprised?
Yes, indeed. Yeah, that's a shock, isn't
It's a friendly rivalry.
it?
Well, happy Monday morning. It's going to be a great week for everybody, I'm sure. And I just feel like lucky us getting to talk about grace as the starting point for our whole week. Yeah.
Indeed, yeah. Um, it's something I haven't contemplated a lot, but um, it sounds like it's a worthwhile thing to explore,
Mm.
a worthwhile consideration. Yeah.
Mm. So, when I said, hey, Matt, want to talk about grace, what did you think?
I thought, I'm not qualified. What do I know about grace? I'm graceless. I'm not a ballet dancer. Um,
Well, I hope you got through that phase and stage quickly.
yeah. Well, then it went, yeah, I'm not a ballet dancer and I'm not a priest. So yeah, I was worried, concerned about my yeah capacity to speak with any wisdom or authority or any sense on grace. But here we go.
I think when we talked, you were talking about saying grace.
Yes, well, that's what came to mind originally when I thought, well, yeah, what is grace? What do we associate it with? And I thought, well, it has a religious connotation
Mm,
to me. Yeah, saying grace around the table. Um, that's what popped to mind. Um, Also, as I just mentioned, great grace is part of the word graceful.
mm,
And I think, uh, yeah, dance, art, or even athletic performance, or
mm,
and then there's a person that is full of grace, elegance.
mm.
So and that's just for a start. That's just some of the associations and the nuances that spring to mind.
Let's start there then. Like all of those states of being, whether it be athleticism or capacity to dance, etc., they imply a certain skill, don't they? That you've kind of come to some acquisition of skill.
Well, I think grace, uh, yes, that's true, but I think it's also some people just have it. There's something about the way they move or their character, the way they respond. So I think that's where it ties into this kind of religious aspect, or it's not even religious, spiritual, something that's beyond um, skills acquisition to me. It's something kind of ephemeral. I'm thinking of, you heard the French term je ne sais quoi.
Yes.
Yeah, it's it's that I know not what. It's this mysterious layer of being which some people just have, like it's though they were blessed with it. So there's a word blessed,
Mm.
grace, kind of, yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's probably, it's a quintessential quality, isn't it, that just comes from certain people. Whether they've actually acquired that or been born with it, question mark.
Yes, yeah. After I finished speaking, I was thinking, oh, yeah, maybe it does come from yeah, many years of dedication to something. I'm learning the piano and I find, yes, I lack a certain grace. It's
Ding,
like clunk,
ding.
clunk, clunk. Um, yeah,
It's that
people who,
analogy, isn't it, of the musical instrument being able to bring yourself as an instrument of whatever we want to call that thing
mm,
to full fruition. Yeah.
mm, mm,
It's really interesting, that whole thing of acquisition versus being given it. And there's so many beautiful things about seeing a baby, isn't there, and a little person.
mhm,
But
mhm.
I never really think about grace in association with tiny people, do you?
No, because they're a bit clumsy too, a bit awkward, a bit poke myself in the face or jerky. Well, not maybe not jerky, but yeah, not their movements aren't fluid. They tend not to be.
Not many people born and, instantly there.
Yeah.
Oh, like coming back to religion again, there's often, was it Zeus who came from Apollo's head fully dressed and, did all his godly things, and born fully clad, born standing up, being able to speak. It's that thing of maybe in extreme circumstances or mythology, we're born with grace.
Yeah, I wasn't actually familiar with that story at all, so that's completely new to me. Yeah, I think if you think of grace in a different way, and it can be, yeah, as I was saying, I feel like it can be thought of in many different ways, then I also think grace is kind of an inherent quality of existence. Like I'm thinking of nature. I mean, nature doesn't maybe develop the skill of being graceful, but there is an inherent grace in just life, in the sunrise, in the cycles, in the seasons, in a flower blooming, in the ocean waving, all these kind of things.
And maybe that's just then straight go, because my whole life is spent in First Nations space at the moment. I go straight to country as teacher, country as curriculum, our place of learning, all of those things which imply, our job is to listen deeply and then to translate or to bring forth or to sing forth or to walk forth that nature, the nature of nature. Yeah. Is grace, isn't it? And as people, I mean, I do think of grace in relationship to much older people as you get old, and aging with grace and all the rest of it, that when you encounter somebody who makes an impression, then it is that they're holding that energy of grace that perhaps is related to nature itself. Yeah.
Maybe letting nature be a teacher. Learning from it. Yeah. How does nature respond to difficulty or challenge or change?
And accepting the ebbs and the flows, the ins and the outs. As a yoga teacher, I spend my entire time in some animal pose, trying to bring in that grace, not necessarily successfully.
Yeah. You mentioned the word acceptance, and I think, there's some of that in grace.
Absolutely. And your professional life is spent as well, you better tell me rather than me put words in your mouth. Mindfulness, meditation, do you associate with both those words?
Yeah, I use them pretty much interchangeably, synonymously, which can be a little bit confusing, but yeah, I see them as essentially the same skill or practice, paying attention. Yeah.
That deep listening.
Yeah, well, that's yeah, exactly. I hadn't put it in those words, but yeah, if you're paying attention, that's what you're doing. Well, metaphorically, whether it's listening to the sounds, the sights, the tastes, the smells, your thoughts, your emotions, whatever it is. Yeah, tuning in.
Bearing witness.
Yeah.
That that capacity, that the whole question that we ask ourselves as meditation or mindfulness teachers is, who's doing the listening? Who's witnessing the ebb and the flow, and inevitably that creates an awareness that there is something deeper going on than just sitting here.
Yeah, something mysterious, and that's kind of what I was alluding to, I think, earlier with grace. This slightly mysterious quality, slightly intangible, something and this is where it touches upon the religious again. I think it's something you kind of have to trust or have faith in. I think that's a big part of my reflections over the last few days on grace. It is, yeah, trust is a big part of it. I don't know that you can kind of make grace or make grace happen. You know, you have to kind of allow it or trust it or have faith that it's almost like something's looking after you, or something will look after you.
You know, like the whole beauty of meditating or practicing mindfulness is that, isn't it? It's like you're releasing the contractions that bind you into one way of approaching things or one way of thinking.
Yeah, best approached with few expectations.
Absolutely. Talking of which, when you started your profession, I don't know how long ago that was. How long ago was that?
I started teaching, or I set up Melbourne Meditation Centre in 2004, 2005. I think I actually ran my first official class.
That's almost 20 years.
Almost 20 years, yes.
Did you set out with any expectation around grace or around your own personal development or bringing about the development of others in terms of, as we're talking about grace? What were those expectations?
Well, I think I had few expectations. I think I was quite naive. I was kind of ridiculously optimistic and confident that following this path would be fruitful. So in hindsight, there was a lot of kind of grace operating in that sense of just trust. I trust that this is the thing to do. Trust to such a degree that I didn't even second guess, plan, worry. It's just this is what I'm doing. This is who I am. It's like a you know, an apple tree is going to grow an apple. They can't do anything but that. You know? It's not going to grow a peach or a pineapple or a plum or something. It's just going to be an apple. It's like this is what that does. So yeah, and things kind of fell into place very naturally, very effortlessly. Yeah. So yeah, it's only looking back really, almost 20 years later, that I realized how kind of graceful that whole process was.
That's a beautiful thing to be able to say, you know, that's what had to happen. Here I am.
Yeah. And I think that's quite a good example of grace, that, you know, you decide what, hesitate to say what you want. At some level a decision is made about how to proceed, and there's just a total absence of fear, worry, concern, or maybe not total absence of there's a bit hyperbolic, but there's a very deep vein of this is the thing to do. Well, this is the right path. This is worth a shot at the very least. I'm going to give it my all, and if it doesn't work out, there. If it does, good.
It must have. There you are, sitting at your desk 20 years later.
Indeed.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Do you feel that that whole pathway that you chose to take, has meant a change in you? It's pretty hard, isn't it? As I say that, I think pretty hard to discern you know, what would have happened if you'd gone down a totally different route and become a tarmacer, you know, whatever else.
Yes.
But given from where you're looking, do you feel that your choice led to an evolution of your spirit or a change in your spirit?
Yeah, it is so hard to know. Um, I think it seems I'm I can't believe I'm using all these words. I was going to say it seems it was destined. You know, I've used blessed, grace, destined.
You almost are a priest, man.
Yeah, yeah. Where's this language coming from? But so because my introduction to meditation was very uh, fortuitous or even just random, accidental. Um, I was actually backpacking around India, um, and I was only in India because I basically got kicked out of the UK. My time there, my visa was up, and they said you've got to go home. I don't want to. And I didn't want to come back to Australia, so I thought, where can I go between London and Brisbane? Thought, oh well, Asia's on the way, so I ended up in India, and someone there said you should do yoga, and that was not an area of interest, or I mean, yoga was not really the popular thing. It is now, but I ended up doing 5 hours of yoga a day for about 3 months.
Mm.
We were introduced to meditation each afternoon. We'd have to do half an hour of meditation. The teacher would say, sit, stay, and then he'd walk off. That was it. That was the instruction. Um, I had some quite compelling experiences in the first couple of days. And that just was very intriguing, very compelling. So I could literally say that is the moment. So one person's random comment or seemingly random comment changed or set a direction that means I'm talking to you now. You know, that was 25 years ago or something.
Wow. Well, I'm going to use another religious word. Hallelujah. Oh, it's a beautiful thing, isn't it? Well, I'd just like to ask you, like, just to think into when I say the word graceful, what mental image comes up for you?
Hmm. It's just something, you know, very balletic dance.
Mm.
That's the immediate
Mm.
image that comes to mind. So, or even a Tai Chi, someone that does Tai Chi or Qi Gong,
Mm.
and just yeah, their whole body is one, and there's that movement from the center.
Mm.
Um, yeah, it seems like it's the body and movement. Um,
You
hmm,
know how beautiful that is, what you just said, like that gorgeous thing, you know, where you're I'm thinking of my Tai Chi teacher, you know, when you move your hand, ripple your hands across the sky, and then you ripple your hands across the water at the same time, and you're actually translating those beautiful force fields of where we live into to a poetic explanation of that, isn't it? And that's a beautiful way of putting grace.
And interestingly, I was just thinking as you were speaking, a lot of those Tai Chi and Qigong moves are drawn from nature. Animals, like you said, the clouds and the sky, and all the names are of these, yeah, natural phenomenon, uh, or yeah, animal poses. So yeah, interesting.
We keep circling back there. So,
Yes, yes.
and that's a kind of a finishing thought, I guess, or however long you want it to be. Doesn't have to just be a thought. How, if you were to be speaking to the people that are listening to this, what would your top tips or focus or practice be for somebody who's seeking to bring more grace into their day-to-day existence?
Just practice qigong.
Great.
um, I think for me, I've been reading and exploring a lot about, and just coming across a lot of people that are very interested in the question of how to love oneself.
Mm.
And yeah, just seem to be coming across quotes and yeah, writings on that recently. And I think that can be a very difficult thing to do for many people, particularly if childhood wasn't so ideal, which is probably the case for most of us.
Mm.
So, and I think it's difficult to give someone explicit instructions on how to do that, how to love oneself.
Mm.
But this idea that simply by virtue of your existence, you are both worthy of love and deeply loved by the universe, for want of a better word, or just kind of life itself. Just to exist requires a great deal of support from the people around you, from yourself, from the land we live on, from the air we breathe, etc., etc. So I think we take those things for granted, or it's easy to not even take them for granted, just to not even consider them as things that are kind of supporting and in a way loving and holding you. So maybe that's a new concept that people can take use of. You mightn't be getting the specific form of love from those around you that you desire or feel you need, but you are still very kind of, both worthy and loved by virtue of existing.
Held.
Sorry?
Held. It's being held, isn't it?
Yeah.
Every breath, every slurp of water. Yeah.
Yeah. So
gorgeous. I love that. And we are nature. We are a force of nature.
Yes, indeed.
As is everything that rises and falls. So and I think so much of falling in love with ourselves is also falling back in love with nature, and they both inform each other. So we are nature.
Yeah.
And we've done a fairly bad job of looking after nature, to put it mildly, and looking after ourselves as a piece of nature. So hence what we all do here in SoulAdvisor as practitioners out there, as it's about coming back to wholeness, coming back to understanding. With grace, most of the time.
Nicely put.
Thank you very, very, very much for sharing Monday morning with me. Really, really do appreciate it, and I hope that your week is fabulous. And I'm going to stop recording now. So goodbye, everybody. Final thought from you?
Thank you very much for the opportunity, Kate. It's been a pleasure.
Always.